front door, and on the dining room table was MP5 submachine guns, hand grenades, body armor, and all the things you normally take when you go on a business trip. She said, "Are we going to war?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to take you." Her next comment was, "Do you have an iron?" I said, "I don't know if I have an iron." Why? She said, "I want to iron your clothes." I said, "Debbie, I'm going to go see people who are going to try to shoot me. They don't care if my pants are flat." So that's kind of the way we went through life. I don't know what to say about my career. I think we can get in it with the Q&A here in a minute, but I commanded 4 FBI field command divisions. I was the deputy assistant director, which is essentially number 3 in the FBI around all the terrorism. And I created and commanded the hostage rescue team. A thing that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life and the most rewarding. To be a member of the HRT is quite an honor. It's really like I said, it's a bitch to get in. Selection is hard beyond belief, and only 50 people made the first time out of the 6,000 agents. So it's not an easy role to follow. One of the things, if we do anything today, I want to talk a little bit about something that affects you, active shooters. How many of your businesses prepared for active shooter?
Thanks to you.
Oh yeah, I was at. We all carry guns, so it's okay. Really, have you looked at that? Have you looked at your business? Have you looked at your facility where your people park? I don't see any hands going up. That's kind of disappointing. You need to think about that. It will literally save your life. And we're going to have a little skit right now that's going to help. Is anybody here pregnant? Going up. We just met a few minutes ago.
What is that? Oh my gosh.
It's just my $500 sunglasses. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. This is a skit that's going to tell you most of the things you need to know about active shooter. Okay. Do you know him?
No,
You don't know him at all?
not even a little bit.
Well, let me tell you who it is. He's Joe the Slasher.
Okay.
Right now, Joe the Slasher is going to cut your throat. Nothing serious, just a little slide.
That's rude.
I mean, what are you going to do about that?
I'm gonna pray.
Well, that's good. I pray a lot.
There you go.
Am I gonna use this?
No, that's not what you're going to do. Don't think about it. He's going to cut your throat. Really, this is for real. He's going to
Okay,
cut your
all
throat. Now, you're a mom. You have a responsibility for what you got to do.
Right.
So what are you going to do?
What would I do? I'd probably just knee him in the balls.
Really? He's got a knife. You're going to knee him in the balls?
Well, I don't know what else to do. That's all I've got.
Well, how about get a little space?
Space
He's
is
right
good.
here.
Yeah, space. Yeah.
Well, get space.
From you?
From him, I'm not going to kill you. He is.
Yeah.
Okay, get space. Seriously.
Okay, go get some space. Okay.
Is that enough?
No.
He's a big, strong guy. He's going to come after you. What are you going to do?
Do you want me to like run out this door?
Absolutely. That's what I want you to do. No, I want you to get out of here. Leave. Go out that door. Seriously, go. Keep going. We're not done. Keep going. I don't see much urgency in your escape. Okay, that's good enough. Time out. Okay. What did we just see? Think about it. She didn't believe me. That's what happens in active shooter situations. People do not believe it's happening. So what do? They stand around and die. Think about it. That's what happens most of the time. I did a TV show with Shepard Smith. We're talking about active shooter. He said, what do I do if I'm in a supermarket and I hear shots? I said, well, that's not firecrackers. He said, what do? Get the hell out? Yes, get the hell out. Most people don't want to embarrass themselves by responding appropriately. Okay, what if you're in the grocery store and you hear pops and you leave? And it's firecrackers. What do? Nothing. You come back. You don't get an X mark on your head. This idiot thought there was an active shooter that won. No, you get space. All security is based on 3 elements: time, space, and reaction. That's all it is. These experts that we see on TV here really aren't. they'll tell you all these things you're supposed to remember in codes and things. That's all BS. You want to get space. Get space and get out of there. Does that make sense? Yeah. And remember, believe it's happening. Get out of here. At one time, I was charged with stealing the nuclear weapons of my Contra. That was an HRT responsibility. And I won't tell you how successful I was or wasn't, but they used a concept against me called time, space, and reaction. It's on my business card. That's what you want to think about. You are constantly trying to get space, right, from the threat, which does what? It buys you time, doesn't it? You can go to your car and get your gun, come back, shoot the guy. If you're inclined to do that, I am, but you may not be. And you can react. So if you remember, one thing we talked about today is time, space, and reaction. I do active shooter training all over the world. You remember Mandalay Bay? Remember that? I did that case. I was an expert in that case. Do you remember the Aurora, Colorado movie shooting case? I was expert in that case. I've done 30-something of those things. And I have a little bit of experience. You don't want experience. You just want to know what to do. And that's basically is, in the vernacular, get the hell out. So if you have questions about that, come talk to me. I can refer to you people down here that can help you come up with a plan. But I heartily encourage you to do that. Also, does your school have an active shooter plan? I saw somebody go like this. You don't know, do you?
Well, my kids are out of school.
Oh, okay. You get a pass. You're okay. No, you should have one. Your school should know what to do. Do they have a school resource officer there with a gun?
Yes.
They should, shouldn't they? I think they should. So anyway, that was my commercial message for you guys. I'm not looking for work. I got more work than I can handle. I remember Yoda for these guys. So think about that. Time and space reaction is very important. Okay, let's go.
All right. Just have a seat over here. Have a seat over here. We're gonna go into a couple of questions. Think about your questions here, because there's a lot of things that Danny has been involved in with the FBI, all the way back to Ruby Ridge, Waco, all of these different incidences that you might have questions about. And we'll get him to talk about some of those things, even some insight into what's happening with FBI and the difference between the inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C., politicized FBI, and then the field agents that we see out in the field handling real problems. So there's a real difference between them, and we can get into that. But one of the things that you want to keep in mind that Danny just touched on, and a lot of folks don't know this, but by state law, September 1, this session, every school must have, by law, a trained resource officer armed on campus, every single school, if it's a public school. Did you know that? It used to be volunteer. Do you remember there was a guy in U.S. Congress, and he was really big proponent of no gun zones. You know who that was? Joe Biden. It was Joe Biden, right? And a lot of things happened after that. But Danny, you were involved in Iran-Contra, and this is kind of a neat story if I can get you to talk about that a little bit, and your interaction with Oliver North, please.
Yeah, when Iran-Contra started, I was a commander of the FBI division in Washington, D.C., and I was called over to headquarters by the deputy director, who said, we want you to do Iran-Contra, and I did not want to do that. I mean, I like to put away bad guys. I don't like congressmen. I don't want to deal with Congress. I sure don't want to deal with DOJ or the White House. So I talked myself out of it. I got out of it. I said, I can't do that. I got those, and I did a couple of tap dances, and I got out of it, and I laughed. The girl I was engaged to, and I went on a rock climbing trip to the Shenandoah National Park, and we are there at the cabin, and the state police car comes up to my cabin, and the guy gets out and said, are you Coulson? I said, yes. Call headquarters. So I left to call headquarters, and I pleaded my case and lost. So I had to do a real conference. So I got to know all the players. You know Oliver North, you heard of him? I prosecuted him. I prosecuted him and convicted him. And then he beat me on appeal. So after he left the government, and I left the government, we both wrote books. So Ollie called my publisher and said, what are the chances that Danny would do my radio show? And they said, oh, hell, he'll do it. And I did. So we flew up to Virginia, my wife and I. We went over and did Ollie's show. It was about an hour and a half, and it was so much fun. Because he kept talking about when I framed him and how bad I was. And I kept talking about the fact that, you just beat me on a technicality. You're lucky I didn't put you in jail. And this is face to face. We're sitting there like two bubbas. And we took messages and things. So for a long time, I did Ollie's show with him. I think Ollie is a great man. I think he has the right political persuasion. He just temporarily forgot we have a constitution. And I reminded him of that. Now he's back making tons of money, certainly more than me.
Oh, wow. There's another incident that I've talked about with Danny before the radio show, the Vegas shooting. He gave us some insight before we went into the show about some aspects of that. I wondered, and I supposed this out loud to him, and he gave the best answer I've ever heard. Never heard this in the news media ever. I said, how in the world did that guy shoot that distance, run through that many rounds, and get that many guns in there? And why in the world did he do it?
For a long time, I was the PGA Tour security director. I took care of Tiger and the boys on the tour. I spent a lot of time in places like Vegas. And so as soon as this thing went down, a lot of the casino owners called me and said, we know that guy. We've kicked him out of all of our casinos. You know why? He could beat the video poker game. He was that smart, he could beat that stuff. So people ask why he did it. The FBI can't tell you, I can't either. My suspicion is he got kicked out of the casinos. So he went there to take revenge, and he did it. He was, it's kind of an oxymoron to say a mass murderer is good, but he was good at what he did. I've been in the room where he took all the shots, greatly elevated. From the lobby of that floor where the elevators come up, it was 375 steps. So imagine you're a police officer. It's like a couple of are here. Imagine you're a police officer. You get off the elevator and you got to go 300 yards down a hall, and he's got 308 caliber rifles going down the hall. Is that an easy deal? No, it's not. It was impossible, pretty much. It would have taken an HRT to have done that. He also had such a high elevated position that couldn't get a shot at him. You can't take a shot when you can see the person. There's another important aspect of that too, is that, do you remember the fact that they talked about the diesel fuel tanks? Remember that? Right at that state, there were diesel fuel tanks. And you know what he did? He fired into them with a 308. Why didn't they go off? He fired in the wrong place. He fired where the liquid was. He didn't fire where the vapor was. So had it not been for his ignorance, a lot more people would die. So that was a very, very serious event. Probably he got some legislation passed, I think, about bump stocks. I don't know why anybody would want one of those anyway. But it's again, why do we have active shooter situations? God knows. I have no idea.
Yeah, that was insight into that particular event. I never heard any news media ever cover it. Such a simple answer that kind of sews it up for you, and it dispels a lot of the conspiracy theories that are running around the internet still to this day. But I think the news media, they make their money on that, right? They love that. They love those kinds of salacious rumors out there that can't be proven, so that they can continually get your attention. That's what they do. That's what they move to tabloid journalism instead of reporting the actual fact. So you had some action out at Ruby Ridge. You got to tell us about that story, because that's something we all heard about back in the 80s. What happened?
Well, I was not there for any of it. I was a deputy at the time. What happened is the Marshal Service went to serve a warrant on Randy Weaver. And while they were there, a dog dog chased them and they killed the dog. It was a Labrador Retriever. I don't see it much of a threat, but they did. And after they killed the dog, Sammy Weaver engaged him in gunfire, and he got killed. The irony of this thing, and I wrote this when I was back at headquarters during the event, is that what are we doing here? ATF was there after Randy. He had a shotgun barrel that was sawed off a 1/4 inch too short, which is a felony. Does that make any sense to you? We had Vicky Weaver killed, we had Sammy Weaver killed over things that didn't make a damn bit of difference. I don't care about sawed-off shotguns. I mean, this man loves them. He loves sawed-off. I love shotguns too. I mean, every conflict I've ever had, I've used a shotgun because they work, they end fights. But it was just ridiculous that we got called and put in that thing. We didn't start it, and we had to resolve it. And I think it put a black mark on us to a degree for quite a bit of time, second only to Waco. So I'm sure you're gonna ask about that too. And I will hit you if you do. Actually hit you if you don't.
I think ATF is really one that stepped on it. Kevin, you got a question?
Yeah, not that I'm a Marvel nerd, but are you saying that Agent Coulson in Marvel was named after you?
Yes.
Is that,
Tell them the story about
that's
when your actual
amazing
witness.
because, you know,
Yeah,
they
it's,
didn't put the picture of him that everybody would recognize him. He was in Iron Man first, and then he was in the Avengers. And in the Avengers, he died, right? Your character died. And so that's what brought all the
yeah, but I
Avengers
came back
together.
to life. Wait a minute, I came back to life. I resurrected myself. I was home one day.
Kevin, TV's not real.
At the time, I was the director of security for PG Tour, and I had been traveling a lot. I came home, and I was spending time with my wife, and we had a call one afternoon from a man, you can Google him, Hawk Oatsby. He is the main writer for Marvel. And he said, Mr. Coulson, you don't know me, but I know you. He said, do you follow Marvel? I said, not really. Why? He said, we, the writers at Marvel, love your book, and we like the dialogue. So we use the dialogue in your book for the Marvel series. The words you're hearing there are your words. I said, do I get money for this? No, the answer is no. He said, so we decided to name the character after you, and spelled it the same way. It doesn't really, I mean, it's kind of corny. My kids kind of think it's cool, because they don't think I'm cool, they think he's cool. So it was kind of an interesting little sidelight, I think. But anyway, yeah, I'm Agent Coulson.
So, wait, tell me a story about the guy that was, it's the first time I've interviewed someone that has a superhero named after him. Remember?
Oh, yeah. I just did a lawsuit in Dallas. We won a $7 billion judgment against a major corporation. And our lawyers were very theatrical. They were funny as heck, and they were good. So he puts me on, I'm the last witness in the trial. He puts me on the stand, and he said, Mr. Coulson, I've never had an expert that had a superhero named after him. Oh my God. This is in the courtroom. I'm thinking, oh,
On the record.
this is kind of embarrassing. And so he told me, asked me this way. So I told him the same story, that yes, we did have that was me. And so actually, the jury thought it was hysterical. And they gave us a $7 billion judgment, so I guess it was not a bad deal.
There's another incident involving the FBI right here in Texas, kind of, something all of us, all Texans, could not escape 40-something days. I'm talking about Waco and the whole David Koresh incident. Can you break that thing down for us where that fell apart? Do you mind talking about that?
I don't mind talking about anything. ATF developed an investigation on a man named David Koresh. I'm sure you know about who David is. They decided to do a raid on David in his compound, and it went really bad. Several of those ATF agents were good friends of mine. I worked with them, and they're heroes. They're American heroes. Their leadership put them in a position we can't win. You just can't win that. Now, I will tell you that you and I, together, alone, could have arrested David Koresh. He went for a run every day, went to the Mag Bag, went to the Dairy Queen. We just drive up, throw his ass in the car and take a lot of arrest him. But they wanted a kind of a production type thing. And so they loaded all their agents in cattle cars and pulled them up right in front of the Davidian compound and announced they're gonna arrest everybody. I'm kind of a tactical guy, that don't work. And unfortunately, we lost some really good agents. And we started a confrontation that never should have happened. Do I like the way it ended? Absolutely not. I rescued 300 hostages. I don't like to lose. And we lost them. The FBI was not at its best there. And I think a lot of it had to do with we had nothing to work with. What do you tell a guy? Come out and we're gonna execute you? What is your negotiation strategy? I'm a negotiator too. I don't know how to negotiate that. And we got out quite a few of them that wanted to leave. By the way, a guy named McVeigh was there for that. I don't know if you guys know that or not. He was in Waco.
He was on the scene.
Yeah, he was on the scene. He and I had another meeting several years later when I arrested him. So that's when it went, that's where it went bad. I was not kidding when I said that you and I could arrest him by ourselves with nothing. Just, David, get your ass in the car, we're going. He'd have walked away, it would have been no more. And I think that's a great blight on our country. I think it's a blight on us. I was the first person interviewed by the commission that investigated that. And it was Senator Danforth who was the head of that. And the first thing the committee asked me was, why didn't they send you? That's what he asking me. I was in the bureau, but I wasn't in command of anything. So I did not do that one. I would like to have done it, frankly, because I like to do those things. The worse it is, the better for me. Yes, sir, right there.
So Danny, this is all good. I want to ask you a really tough question.
All right.
What are your thoughts about the weaponization of the FBI in light of the fact that Hillary Clinton left the White House with all kinds of documents on computers and nothing happens? We have the Joe Biden's son with computers, nothing really substantial happens. Trump gets a raid on his house. The appearance there is that the FBI is working with the Democrat president or the Democrat office in order to squelch or reduce the influence of conservative thought and principle. You mentioned the Constitution a while ago, equal justice under
Yes.
the law. And so what are your thoughts about the current leadership of the FBI and their role in dealing with these issues?
That's a great question, and it makes me want to throw up. It's sickening to me. I was there when the FBI developed the guidelines on domestic terrorism and international terrorism. Here's the problem in my view. The FBI should not be a part of the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
What is the most political institution on the planet? DOJ. Who do we report to? DOJ. What are we talking about here? You know, they say the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over with the same result. We're crazy. We shouldn't work for those guys. I've been asked to do some bad things by DOJ. I'll take a quick story. When I was number 3, I got a call from the director who said, you need to go see the Attorney General. And I said, sir, with all due respect, isn't that your job? He said, I'm not handling this one, you're handling it. So I went over to see Janet and Jamie Gorelick, and Jamie turned to me, she's the deputy. She said, Danny, I want you to immediately open up domestic terrorism cases on every abortion clinic protester in the country. And I said, I'm not doing that. It's against the law, violates the First Amendment. And we got in a big fight about it. My deputy, who is much smarter than me, he said the same thing. We cannot do that. That's a violation of your guidelines. So if you protest, you use your First Amendment protected speech to protest against abortions. And by the way, I'm pro-life. If that upsets you, I don't care. I'm very pro-life. We have a couple of kids in our family that were born without the benefit of a marriage, and they're precious. So I said, I'm not gonna do it. So they insisted I do it, and they turned to a woman named Mary Lawton, who was the head of policy and review. And she looked at the Attorney General and said, General, he's right. You cannot do that. It's against the law. I think today the FBI would do that. I really do think that. Because
Actually, they are.
they did do it. They're investigating PTA.
Well, there's a lot of people that are protesting at school board meetings that are
Exactly. Same thing.
identified as terrorist groups, you know?
Exactly.
Domestic
Look,
terrorism.
we got enough to do without investigating the PTA.
So it's not my imagination.
No, I don't think so. I completely agree with you. I think the FBI, frankly, and let me, I'm talking about leadership. I'm not talking about the agents. The agents are still the same agents. They're all the same. They want to do their job. They believe in the Constitution. They have courage. And they work really hard. I think Christopher Wray needs to go. I think that probably the whole staff needs to go. I'll give you some inside baseball. About 4 months ago, I got a request to come back and be on the staff of Mayor Garland. And I said, no. And the man who called me was one of my very best friends. He said, Danny, I'm serious. I said, I'm serious too. First of all, I don't support him. I don't support his philosophy. Plus, I'm married to the coolest woman in the world who would kill me if I went back there. So, yeah, I like what you said. I totally agree. I think it's something that needs to be done. I don't see it changing. I keep watching all the testimony of these guys, and they don't even know their facts. That's kind of scary. I've testified for Congress many times, and it's not easy. It's really hard, but it's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, they'd get somebody else to do it. And he keeps. I think Christopher Wray keeps failing. It's pretty scary. But it makes me sick in my stomach. I wouldn't exaggerate. It makes me absolutely nauseous to think about that. Remember I told you about my wife, how she's a great accent? I got to tell this story. She and I are on a date. We're at the movies. I get a call from SIOC, where they run all the operations. They said, go to the airport. You're going to deploy now. Where am I going? We'll tell you when you get there. Well, what kind of clothes do I take? So he gave me a little stuff. So Debbie drove me to the airport in my truck. We get out to Andrews, and I get out of the truck, and I get a salute from the AP, and I walk up the ramp of a C-140, and I fly away, and I'm gone forever. So I come back. She picks me up at the airport, and she looked at me. She said, "Did you know you didn't tell me goodbye? You didn't kiss me and tell me you love me?" She said, "I could have driven you there naked. You would not have noticed." I said, "I think I'd noticed that." with all due respect, I would have noticed that. And that's the kind of wife I'm married to, who puts up with all that crap that we put them through. Had a good sense of humor, and she hadn't divorced me yet. At least I haven't been home for a while, but maybe she will.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
So I want to say, I was watching a clip last week in the Iron Man movie or something, and Tony Stark says, "Do you know his first name is Agent?" He's talking about Agent Coulson.
Oh, yeah.
So I searched it up, and they never use his first name in the movie.
No, he's Phil. Now he's Phil.
And I also want to add, so are you saying during Waco that David never, during the standoff, was leaving to get stuff? Or,
Was he leaving?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so what are you said that you could have arrested him, like, before?
Yes, sir, before it ever started.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, I love negotiators, because if they do their job, I don't have to do mine, and mine's really dangerous. So I like people to talk them out. If I can nip it in the bud, I arrested a lot of people. I mean, I don't even know how many I've arrested, probably 1,000. And if you can get them on the street, you can get them out walking or having dinner at the, well, he went to Dairy Queen every day. I would love to arrest him with an ice cream in his hand. That would have made my job really easy.
Were shot for
A rank and file person in law enforcement, when they get an order versus what they what percentage will follow the Constitution no matter what, like you did in that case earlier, versus I'm going to follow the order because I'm worried about my pension and my paycheck?
That's a great question. It's not easy. The answer is, and it's a good answer. If they're field agents, they won't do it. They're not going to do it. If they're executives at headquarters, I'm afraid they'll do it. I know that's not very reassuring, but it's really scary. Another thing that's important. There was a director named Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller and I did Pan Am 103 together. I know him very well. Remember the Lockerbie bombing? I did that. He says a commander. He brought every important case to headquarters. Yeah. Every one of them. I didn't ran Contra in Washington Field Office. Where was Watergate run? Washington Field Office. Now by doing that, here's what he accomplished. He took about 7 levels of review out of the process. In the field, you have an agent, a relief supervisor, a supervisor, a assistant special agent in charge, a special agent in charge, and legal counsel, and a couple others. How many reviews is that? At least 7, isn't it? Right there. And we all know the law. I'm a lawyer. Don't tell anybody. Keep that between us, okay? So you have 7 levels of approval in the field. He brought them back because he could run them all. What did James Comey do? He did the same thing. He kept them there. And so how many levels of approval do we have now? 1. You see the problem there? And it's still like that to this very day. It's disgusting. Yes, sir. In the far back.
You know that Mueller and Comey were the handlers of Whitey Bulger?
I know about that to a degree. I don't know of it personally. I know about it.
And Durham investigated them and didn't do anything. And they got these 4, godfathers or mafia guys sent to jail for stuff they didn't do. Like they were mafia guys, but they didn't do the cases that they went to jail for. And then they were proven to be innocent, but Mueller and Comey kept them in jail. They died in jail.
Well, I'm not a fan of either one of them. I've been in Africa. I did the security for the president of Nigeria for a while. By the way, if you get an all expenses paid trip to Nigeria, don't go. It is really dangerous. I did Goodluck Johnson security for a while, and one day I'm home and his security advisor called me, and he wanted me to come back. I said, no, I'm not coming back so you can send me a lot of money. So I told my wife that I might be going back to Nigeria. She said, well, isn't that dangerous? I said, hell yes, it's dangerous. Who wouldn't then have called you? And her response was, you'll have fun enough. So, go back to Comey. I've been in Nigeria working, and I came home, and I get a call from the commander of the FBI office in Dallas, when I used to command. And he said, did you get Comey's email? I said, no, why would I? I don't work for you guys. He said, he wants to meet with you in my office tomorrow. I said, about what? He said, he won't tell us. So I drive over to Dallas, I go in the conference room, he's there with these little munchkins. I don't want any one of those guys in a fight with my side. But anyway, he proceeded to give me the same lecture that you had him give about Hillary Clinton. To the word. The same, I'm sitting there thinking, why am I here? I don't work for this guy. So he did it, and after it, he said, do you have any comments? I said, no. None? I said, not really. He said, well, I want a comment. I said, okay, I'll give you a comment. You need to hire somebody on your staff who's out looking for a promotion or a transfer. That person can stay there and tell you what you're doing is a really bad idea. I'm surprised I'm still alive today. I'm surprised Detail didn't shoot me. That really upset him. I think he was looking for some kind of validation from a former commander. I wasn't going to give it to him. I think everything he did was bad. I think the Clinton thing was a joke. It was, I watched it. I'm sure, did you guys watch that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you think he was going to talk about indicting her? Didn't you? I did. And then he goes, what? and you're not gonna indict him?
Right.
He assumed the duty of a United States attorney, and he decided not to prosecute. FBI didn't do that. We don't make recommendations for prosecutors, we got the facts. And he did it. And I think that was a hallmark watershed moment for the FBI. I think we lost our credibility, and it's sickening. I want to say that with a caveat. The agents in the field are still us. I think they believe in the Constitution, they believe in right and wrong, I think they have courage. We just lost a couple last year, and they do the right thing. But I think from the view of the American people, I think that was a horrible event.
I think Kevin Reach had a question.
Yeah, you answered a question earlier about the Justice Department, controlling the FBI, because the FBI, that's astounding. I had no idea that they were related like that, but it explains so much when the FBI has their hands tied behind their back, and they're not able to move forward with prosecutions. But this is closer to home for so many of us, and Joe, you and others have property in South Texas and have ranches, but everything I've heard about people in South Texas, the cartel controls both sides of the border. And people are losing their lifestyle, their businesses, their ranches. They're having to get the hell out because the cartel has made living down there so dangerous for them. And it's one thing for law enforcement, hopefully we'll have sheriffs like right here that'll take care of things in the local scene. But when's someone like the FBI going to go after the kingpins of the cartel who are hiding in Mexico somewhere? They're never visible, you can't find them. But the FBI or the CIA, it seems like somebody could help control all the drug trafficking.
Did you see the movie Clear and Present Danger?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is. I know that, first of all, you're mistaken. The border is absolutely secure. It's under control. I mean, where have you been? We got Camilla on the job. So, no, I'm being facetious, clearly. I don't have any hope they're going to do the right thing. Let me say one other thing about that. I think Border Patrol guys are American heroes.
Absolutely.
They are absolutely the best. Tom Homan, who you see on TV all the time, he's a close friend of mine. We formed a company to build the border wall. And we had it built and approved, and a guy named Joe Biden came in and said no. You can probably tell I'm not a fan.
Mark, go ahead.
I guess just your thoughts or any information you have on the January 6th, our citizens that are in dungeons right now in our country. And
I'll handle that one, okay?
I like the way you do business. I know about insurrections. I was kind of in the business of high threat stuff. That wasn't an insurrection, that was a demonstration. And I had a very wealthy client there. We were doing a security, and I detailed people to do that. And guess who I detailed? HRT guys. They took him there, and it was not for the demonstration, it was me with Trump. So I get a call and it said, things are going bad. What do we do? I said, get him the hell out of there. He said, he doesn't want to go. I said, I don't care, put him in the car and get him out of there. I'll deal with him. The one thing they told me, and this was pretty much early in the conversation, Danny, this is a false flag. I know it's not cool to say that. It's not, doesn't follow the template of the government, or it doesn't follow the template of the media, but these guys are studs. They are very sharp, they're tough, they're mean, very bright, and the first thing it says, false flag, what do we do is get out. I mean, how is it an insurrection if you open the door and let them in? What am I missing? I'm not a very smart guy, but even I can figure that out. So, and the fact that we spent so much time on that January 6th committee with that icon of constitutionalism, Liz Cheney running it. I'm sorry, that was not very polite maybe, but that was a sham. And I think bottom line is, in my opinion, I'm terrified of what's going on in our country. I've been through more stuff than most people will ever go through in their life, maybe 10 lifetimes, and I'm really frightened. I'm concerned that in the future we're going to start having very serious supply chain issues. Then what happens when my wife goes to the grocery store? Somebody's going to wait outside and take her food. What about when she goes to the gas station? Somebody's going to take her car. I'm really concerned. I'm not an alarmist. I'm not a survivalist. I do have a lot of guns. I don't know how to use them. I got food. But other than that, that's about all my preparation is. But I've got 8 grandkids. Where are they going to live? What kind of world are they going to live in? And the two gentlemen up here talking about getting involved in voting. I could not endorse that more than this man when he says about vote. It's a scary world. Am I afraid? Yeah. I kind of like to fight, though. I mean, I kind of do that. But I'm concerned for them.
Bruce Bain.
Oh, yes.
Question?
Okay, follow up to that, Ray Epps.
I have no clue. I mean, I've seen the videos. If anybody was ever involved with him, I don't know what happened. Remember, I don't work there anymore. I have no clue, and I don't have any confidence in the leadership to sort that out. I think that Christopher was asked about Ray Epps, he wouldn't answer. He just blew it off. So I don't know.
No. So as a follow-up, then, we know the letter agencies are corrupt. Getz has stated that there's no way that he can control them. That the only thing they have is the power of the purse to maybe stop the FBI building, something like that. What do we do to try and correct corruption that's up there?
Great question. The answer is, it's really simple. Vote.
Other than that, because we can't vote for them.
Well, you know, you're not going to take a gun and have a revolution. You're not going to do that, because they'll kill you. They'll put you in jail or kill you. And I think don't underestimate voting and how important it is. Put pressure on your congresswomen. Put pressure on your senate. I tell you, I don't know how you guys feel about our senators from here. I think we got kind of A and B. Ted Cruz is amazing. He's my favorite. No, he's my second favorite senator. Who's my favorite? Want to guess?
Jim Jordan.
No, Kennedy from Louisiana. He is the smartest guy in the world, and it takes him about an hour and a half to get a sentence out, but he's amazing. I mean, that's the kind of leadership we need, and that's where we need to go. But I'm not a politician. I don't campaign. I don't do anything. I did campaign for myself because I thought he was a stud. But I don't really get involved in that kind of stuff. But my message to you is to vote and get everybody. Vote once and vote often. Whatever it takes, just vote.
Bring your friends to vote.
Exactly. No kidding.
Jack?
We had to ran out of paper.
Real question, because I've always wanted to know, and you may not, but we're all at this table in the bail bond business. We've got an 82% failure to appear rate in Harris County right now. Everybody's being released on PR bonds. They changed the federal system several decades ago to where when you get arrested in federal courts, you're either getting out or you're not getting out. And if you get out, it's some type of mixture between a deposit and a PR bond. Do you have any idea? And on top of that, the systems themselves are so vastly different. You know, I believe the federal system's probably handling much less of a load than what your, Harris County alone is handling. But when they release like that, do they appear because there's a much greater threat of real time that they would be serving instead of?
I don't think so. I think it's a philosophy. I think what's going on in New York and those places like that, I think they really believe what they're doing. I think they're true believers, which I find hard to believe. That's kind of a crazy way to say it.
But is in the federal system, isn't that appearance ratio better?
Yeah, it is because.
But they're looking at doing real time.
Well, also, remember that our offenses are really high.
Your what now?
Our offenses are really high, so they get hammered.
Are most of them being detained?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so we have
Oh,
a
the
very
ones I
low.
worked bank robberies and murders, so mine wasn't parking tickets. So they put them in jail forever. Yes, sir.
Kind of off of what he just said, given your role in the FBI, how do you feel that they're handling anti-police, anti-criminal justice type organizations on the ground? I understand you say the agents are always the agents,
Yeah.
but how are their protocols and policies being handled to deal with what's growing? Because it's like a cancer. Criminal justice reform and bail reform is a farce. It's a lie.
Of course.
And being that you guys can infiltrate organizations like that, like you said, they're true believers. I'm with you on that.
Okay, we have to be careful about that. You have a right to be anti-cop. You have a right to want to defund the police. And so that's protected by the First Amendment. There has to be some indicia of criminality before they can get after it. But I will tell you, one of the problems that's really a big issue for me is, and I worked in New York for 10 years. I worked police killings in New York City and had a great career there. But when I was there, they put bad guys in jail. I mean, look at, my son's a cop right now. He's a cop in Oregon,
What city?
right outside of Portland, it's Beaverton, Oregon. His partner is a 100-pound German Shepherd who doesn't give a damn if they're whatever you are, hell bites you. My son is not allowed to go into Portland and work, as no agency in Portland is allowed to go into Portland alone. Not one policeman will go inside of Portland and work. You know what my son says? Dad, if my dog bites somebody, they'll indict me. You know, that's true, so they won't go in there. Think about it. I commanded that division for 3 years, I think. And Portland is, have you ever been to Portland?
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful city you'll ever find any place. Thank you. Now it's boarded up. It's literally boarded up. When I go see my family there, my granddaughter, my son, my daughter-in-law, we don't go into Portland. I got a gun. I don't use it. I'm afraid to go there. And I think it's and what's the answer to that? I don't know. Except my inclination is say, you boarded them in, you deal with it. If you get your throat cut, you get your throat cut. It's not my problem. Yes, ma'am.
So, because you've been involved in the FBI for so many years, what's the difference in the human trafficking when you were active to today, what you're hearing?
It's wasn't that big a deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but not that numbers. You know where most of the human trafficking takes place in the United States? Texas.
Houston.
Yeah, right here. I think it's horrible. And I've had some experience with that. As out of the FBI, I had a friend, a lady, and her husband were friends of mine. And I don't know if you remember or not, but a few years back, the top 10 fugitive for the FBI was a human trafficker. And she called me and she said, Danny, I know him. I said, really, how do you know him? She said, he trafficked me. She's a middle-aged lady with 3 children, great lady, and I hooked her up with the FBI. And she made a lot of cases for him because she still had that knowledge. And this is the tragedy. Her husband calls me one day. He was a friend of mine too, actually a better friend. And he said, Danny, when the FBI talks to this lady, they got to talk to me because I know more than she does. I said, how does that work? He said, because she has 3 personalities. And all 3 of them talk to me. So when they talk to the FBI, they don't know who they're talking to. Does that make you sick?
Yes.
It's terrible.
What can we do?
Vote. We gotta change the playing field here. I'm sorry, I'm not very smart, so I get a good answer. I stick with it. So forgive me, but that's the answer. We're not gonna have a revolution.
You gave a good answer.
Well, I hope so.
I got a question for Danny. Let me see.
All right.
I got a question for him, and then we're going to go to Jack. Danny founded the hostage rescue program in the FBI, and so at some point in his career, he went, "Wait a minute, we don't have a hostage rescue program that's organized. So tell us how that came about.
Director Webster, who was the best director in the history of our country, he had an aide named John Byron Hodis. Hodis was a Marine Corps officer. He had a law degree from Duke. He had a master's in law from Harvard and a doctorate in law from Yale. Super bright guy. As a side to that, we put on an exercise in the FBI with the Delta. You know what the Delta Force is? You ever heard of Delta, right? The FBI and Delta did an operation together in a demonstration thing. It was a force on force. After it was over, some decisions were made. First of all, Delta didn't want the job here. They don't want to deal with what we deal with. Secondly, we don't want them here. And I love Delta. I've trained with them, done jobs with them. But they're soldiers. If you say, cover me, they cover you with a 50 caliber and they open up on you. It's just different. It's a different type of world. So a White House staffer came to Director Webster and he said, we're going to have a team and you better get ready for it because you're going to get the job. We couldn't do that stuff. We couldn't do that threat level type of thing. So Webster appointed John Byron Hodis to create the concept for the hostage rescue team. And they had a competition for it, and I entered it, and I got picked. So it's pretty simple. Best job I ever had.
I think, was it Jack? You have a follow-up question?
I just wanted to make a comment because so that people understand. When he says his son's a police officer won't go into the city of Portland, and everybody knows what's happening in Portland, they don't have bail in Oregon. They don't have bail in Illinois. Doesn't exist. They have a 10% deposit to the court, which is meaningless. It's a government slush fund. They could care less if the fugitives are running around rampant. In Chicago, they don't even report to the NCIC. They don't. You can walk across to the next state, and you're as pure as the driven snow. You don't even have a criminal record. Secured bail is like a light switch, which is what's going on here. All they'd have to do is turn it back on, and your crime problem would immediately cease.
Yeah, you got to have a place to keep them too.
Yeah, Joe. Yes, ma'am, over there.
I am wondering what your solution to the FBI/DOJ is. If it's removing the FBI from underneath the DOJ or disbanding the FBI field
I'm sorry, can you
We can't hear you because of the air conditioning vent over here.
Also, because I fired about 1 million rounds on my pistol, I can't hear anything.
I'm looking for solutions,
Here,
right?
Get on the mic here.
Get on the mic.
I want to know what the solution might look like for the FBI or DOJ. I mean, a lot of people talk about defunding the FBI, but is it just that we need to get rid of the DC field office?
No.
Do we need to remove them from under DOJ's supervision? But I also have issues with our three-letter agencies self-policing themselves because we've got issues with EPA doing land grabs and the FDA approving things going into our bodies and into our mouths that have no business being there because all of these agencies self-police. So, asking questions, just looking for solutions.
Good question.
That's a great question. The solution is get the FBI away from the DOJ. Standalone agency, just like NSA is. We don't need to be there. Now, should we have supervision? Yes. I don't believe in us supervising ourselves or policing ourselves. But you have a commission that oversees it, and it would work. I don't want to be involved in it. I've done my time with the FBI. I don't want to do it anymore. My wife has put up with enough. You can't imagine what she's put up with. I commanded the bombing in Oklahoma, and I arrested McVeigh. When I came back from that case, we started getting threats to kill our family from a man who called himself Orkin. So our daughters had little wafers on their collars that they punched them, and the cops and the FBI came. Of course, when they came, it's over. They're dead. But at least we had that. So we lived like that for quite a while. I took my daughters to soccer games. I had a hand grenade in each pocket and a Browning high power on my hip and an M4. And idea what my wife is like. We had to brief our kids. We had 4 then. They were high school and above. So we have a meeting in our house and we tell them what's going to happen about new cameras and new procedures and the 140-pound Rottweiler that now is our protector. And my wife stood up and said, look, we're not hiding. We're going to have our lives. Our girls are going to go to prom, they're going to go to soccer, they're going to go to high school. If they want us, just bring it. How many women do that? You see why I'm so nice to her? Okay, I hope I answered your question. I did about as good a job as I am, but I'm kind of flying over my head here.
So what's the best advice? We got one item I got to cover at the end about the impeachment of Paxton. We're going to cover that in just a second. I got a ton of questions. So I'll give you a statement on it. But the best thing that we can do as private citizens, as we're our first responder, right? You're your first responder if somebody hadn't told you that. When the crime happens, and you're around it, it's you, right? So you're your first responder. Nobody in the parachute in. Nobody knows about it. No helicopters coming over dropping people to help you. You're on your own. So what's the best thing you can do?
Run. Yes, run. I think you should be armed. I really do believe that.
Armed with?
Ammunition material. No, I wrote a opening piece for our website, and I said it's the only thing I carry. Remember, police are minutes away. Seconds matter. Be armed and learn how to shoot your gun. I'm not a big one on telling people what kind of gun to carry. I'll just tell you that I believe in all steel games, guns. I don't like plastic stuff. They work. The FBI carries them. I carry an all-steel pistol, an ACK-P7, which is 100 million years old, but it's the best pistol in the world for me. Don't be afraid of 22 caliber pistols. They're very effective. The Israelis take down skyjackers with 22s. Think about it. So, to quote a very famous philosopher, Lee Trevino, he says, it ain't the arrow, it's the Indian.
So get trained, get armed, practice, and be the person with a plan. Because believe me, they got a plan. When you're the victim of crime, you're the victim. They've got a plan to victimize you. Don't be in that situation. BIZPAC, every couple of years we go through active shooter training over there in Washington County. 4 County, Texas SWAT team trains there, John Dean's. But I think that we were talking the other day on the phone, if we've got enough folks we can put together and we'll assess where you're at in your skill level, we can get you from getting familiar, picking out the right weapon, getting armed, and getting trained. Okay, so know that you can do that. Get a hold of us. We'll help you get in that program. Let's thank Danny Coulson for being here and letting us ask you all questions.
And carry our ammo.
Yes.
American munitions.
AmmunitionUSA.com. If you like to shoot, because I love to shoot, get it. AmmunitionUSA.com. Okay, we'll cover this one last thing.